Good morning. Today is Thursday, January 9th, 2025. Asara B'Teves, the 10th day of the Jewish month of Teves, is a fast day, and it is tomorrow. Tomorrow is the 10th day of Teves, Friday. Now, this fast day is confusing to a lot of people for two reasons, but one of the reasons is much more well known than the other. So the more well-known confusion about this day is that this fast day is the only day that can possibly fall on a Friday. Of course, going into Shabbos, we break the fast when we make Kiddush at home on Friday night. So we are actually fasting a little bit into Shabbos, just a few minutes. And the question comes up, why don't we make it a different day? Why don't we push it? Why don't we make it earlier and fast today, Thursday, like we do for the fast of the firstborn? When that fast day falls on Shabbos, as it does this year, we pull it back to Thursday. Or why don't we push it off and make it later? For example, we do this for Tisha B'Av. If Tisha B'Av, or the 17th of Tammuz for that matter, falls on Shabbos, we push it off till Sunday. So why don't we pull forward or push off this fast day when it falls on a Friday as it does this year? So the answer to that is simple. The answer is that only if a fast day falls on Shabbos itself do we move it. Now that's except for Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is in a different category than all the other fast days because normally fasting on Shabbat is anomalous. It is a contradiction to the spirit of Shabbat. Yom Kippur is in a different category. We've discussed this before, where the fasting on Yom Kippur is actually congruent with the themes of Yom Kippur. So let's leave Yom Kippur to the side for a moment. But if a fast day, like Tisha B'Av, falls on Shabbos itself, we move it because we don't allow fasting on Shabbos, again, except for Yom Kippur. But Asara B'Teves, the 10th of Teves, tomorrow, falls on Friday. So a fast day on Friday, we don't move. Any fast day that would fall on a Friday, we do not move, and we fast on that Friday, which means fasting a little bit into Shabbos. Now, the only thing is that the way that our calendar works, the 10th of Teves, this fast day tomorrow, is the only one of all the fasts that can possibly fall on a Friday. Many of our holidays, the way our calendar is arranged, can only fall on certain days of the week, not on others. So all of the other fast days, there is none that can possibly fall on a Friday. So the question never comes up. But if a fast day would fall on a Friday, we would fast. The only one that does is tomorrow, Asara B'Teves. That's why we fast. The second surprising feature of this fast day is less well known. But I want to suggest to you much, much more important. Because according to many of our sages, this fast day of Asara B'Teves, the 10th day of Teves, is unique among all of the other fast days except for Yom Kippur. Because if it would fall on Shabbos, now in our calendar, the 10th of Teves does not fall on Shabbos, but it theoretically could. If Asara B'Teves, the 10th of Teves, would fall on Shabbos, according to many of our commentators, we would fast on Shabbos. Like Yom Kippur, not like any of the other fast days that we move if it falls on Shabbos. Listen to this. This is the Avudraham. The Avudraham is one of the early authorities that wrote one of the most authoritative texts of the prayer book, of the Siddur, and the laws that are associated with the prayers and the holidays. So the Avudraham writes, Tainus Shel Yud B'Teves, the Tainus of the 10th of Teves, who Meshunim Meshar Tainiyos. It's different, it's unique among all the other fasts. Shim Hayachal B'Shabbos, that if it would fall actually on Shabbos, not Friday, but on Shabbos, Lo Haya Yecholim Lidchoso Yilom Acher, we would not move it to another day. Kamo B'Yom HaKippurim, like Yom Kippur, where if it falls on Shabbos, we fast. Unlike the fast of Esther, 17th of Tammuz, Tisha B'Av, Tzom Gedalia, even though it is considered what we consider it's not a 24-hour fast. It's only from morning till nightfall. In what possible way should this fast day that so many people are not even familiar with has such a profound significance on the level of Yom Kippur? I want to share with you the insight of Rabbi Eliezer Simchah Weisz. He suggests the following. There is something unique about this fast day, the 10th of Teves, from the other fast days. So just to go through the chronology, all the fast days relate to the Churban, the destruction of the first and the second Beit HaMikdash, the Holy Temple in Jerusalem. And on Asara B'Teves, the 10th of Teves, the Bavel, the Babylonians, led by Nebuchadnezzar, they laid a siege around Jerusalem. That's what happened on this date. That's why we commemorate it as a fast day. The siege was in place approximately 2.5 years, until the inhabitants of Jerusalem were weakened. And then on the 17th of Tammuz, which is usually early summer, the Babylonian army was able to pierce the walls of Jerusalem, and there was hand-to-hand combat. So that day, the 17th of Tammuz, is a fast day because Jerusalem was vulnerable, was attacked directly, and there was hand-to-hand combat in the streets of Jerusalem for 3 weeks, until finally Tisha B'Av, the 9th of Av, 3 weeks later, the Babylonians set fire to the Beit HaMikdash and caused the first Churban. The Romans later destroyed the Beit HaMikdash on the same date of the 9th of Av. So that's a fast day. But when the Babylonians, when Nebuchadnezzar conquered Israel, conquered Jerusalem, they left a government in place, overseen by someone who was loyal to Bavel, to Nebuchadnezzar, but who was Jewish, and his name was Gedaliah. So there was still a bureaucracy and a community of Jews living in Israel after the destruction of the temple for about 7 weeks, until Gedaliah was assassinated by other Jews, it pains me to say. And then, at that point, Bavel decided that's it, Jews out of Israel, and the rest of them were exiled, mostly to Babylonia, some to Alexandria and other places. But on all the other fast days, the 17th of Tammuz, the 9th of Av, and the fast of Gedaliah, there's a dispute whether it was actually the second day of Tishrei or the third day of Tishrei. We observe it as the third day of Tishrei, so it's right after Rosh Hashanah. Some say it occurred on the third, some say it occurred on the second. It gets pushed off, so we don't fast on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. But on those fast days, something happened. Something terrible happened, and we would commemorate it with a fast day. The walls of Jerusalem were pierced. That was terrible. The Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. That was really terrible. The Jews assassinated a Jewish leader and caused a more complete exile from Israel. Very terrible. And we fast on those days. But on this fast day, nothing much happened. The army laid a siege around Jerusalem. There was not much difference between the 10th of Teves and the 11th and the 12th and the 13th. It was a siege that lasted for 2.5 years. But in terms of significance, that unique feature makes the meaning of this fast day different from the others. Because on the 10th of Tishrei, on the 10th of Tevet, when they laid siege against Jerusalem, the Jewish people had 2.5 years to change their fate. They could have repented. They could have improved. They could have learned a lesson. They could have avoided it. Remember how many times the prophets at that time were trying to get the Jewish people to change their behavior, to improve their ways. And there was still time. There were 30 months between the time of the siege and the actual beginning of the destruction of Jerusalem on the 17th of Tammuz. About 30 months during which the Jewish people could have done something to avoid that fate. And they did not make use of that time properly. We fast in order to remind ourselves not of something terrible that happened on that day. If that was the reason, we would not fast on Shabbos. But we fast for a reason that is similar to why we fast on Yom Kippur. We need to figure out how to improve ourselves. We need to think about the future. Yom Kippur is about the coming year. How are we going to be different? How are we going to be better? Asara B'Teves is about the fact that there was this year when we did not take the opportunity to improve ourselves, to change the way we were, to change what will be the ultimate result. And so it's a fast day to remind us to think about how we must change, how we must be proactive in planning for a better tomorrow. That's what they did not do. That's why it's a fast day. And that's a fast day that's on the level of Yom Kippur. It's not because something terrible happened. It's because we need to be thinking about what comes next. We need to be thinking about how are we going to improve? How can we be proactive about the problems that we're facing? On October 7th last year, of course, the Jewish people, the state of Israel, the people of Israel, faced an unimaginable loss and horror and trauma that has continued to this day. But alongside that loss and trauma and pain, as we've discussed many, many times, we have also seen uniting in battle, in prayer, in mutual support of each other in so many different ways. The war has now endured for 461 days. And we have a lot of fear, we have a lot of uncertainty. We can never for a moment forget the hostages that are there suffering we can't even imagine, and praying and hoping and doing whatever is possible that they should be released as soon as possible, that they should be brought home as soon as possible. But it's important to be focused on the future. How do we make this better? As we commemorate Asara B'Teves, the 10th of Teves tomorrow, we're reminded that we should direct our thoughts and our actions towards the future. The fast urges us to take responsibility for what lies ahead, to actively shape a brighter future for the Jewish people, for the state of Israel, and for Jews all over the world. So I want to share with you, very briefly, just one exquisite example of what is actually happening. This is something it's astounding to me. So this is I want to tell you about a fellow. His name is Roee Azizi, lives in Israel, lived in Jerusalem. He's 28 years old. And I'm sharing part of an interview that he did with Daniel Gordis a while ago. Okay, Roee Azizi lives in Jerusalem. What were you doing on October 7th? October 7th last year, I was up north with friends, didn't have a cell phone. Finally, about 10, 11 a.m., we heard the news. And all of us, his group of friends, we all immediately started driving south. They were all in the reserves. They had all served in the IDF. They were reserves. No one called them. No one, this is before any order. They immediately started driving south. I arrived at my base at about 2 p.m., so because we had rushed all the way there from the north to the south in just a couple of hours. And I come there, and by then, in the early afternoon, I realized what's going on. And I realized that we're experiencing a historic event. And I think that we will never be able to understand the size of it. I remember we were feeling or experiencing that feeling of historic times. And it took me a few days to realize that that crisis also brings with it opportunity. A few days. And I remember thinking to myself at night that I personally, this is Roee Azizi, I personally feel an inner calling that because of the level, the magnitude of the disaster, that I feel that me personally, I have to be involved in any way possible in creating the opportunity that waits in the day after. This is his immediate feeling within a day or two of this terrible tragedy. How can I personally be involved in making it better going forward? I remember it was basically the first or second week after October 7th. I was texting my friends and I said to them, listen, I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know how long I'll be serving on the front. But the first chance I have, the first time I have off, the first chance I have, I'm packing up my stuff in Jerusalem. I'm leaving my job. I'm leaving my friends. I'm leaving everything behind, and I'm moving to the Gaza envelope. I'm moving down there. And only in retrospect I understood that it was an inner calling that relied on this value of solidarity and achva, this kind of classic Zionism, the feeling of pain due to what people experience in the Otef, in the area surrounding Gaza, and the feeling of dedication to become a part of it. I knew that I have to be this pioneer who proves that it's not only possible, but it's necessary to do that step. So, he did it. And in December of last year, while the Western Negev was still at war, and the area, the Otef, the envelope, the communities surrounding Gaza were still evacuated, most of the people, almost all the people were not there, I went south. Roee says. And I made it as far as Tevet, one of the larger communities in that area. Packed my stuff, left my job, told my boss I have to leave, that's the call I feel. I moved to Tevet. And I'm telling myself that October 7th must serve as a tectonic event that really marks the historic Zionist mission of my generation, he says. He's 28 years old. That it's time for the people of my generation to take on the spirit of classic historic Zionism. Those of us who understand that the reality we experienced before October 7th is unsustainable, and we must take responsibility for the future, for the stability, for the prosperity of us as a society. And the understanding of that spirit that I had, that I acted on, Roee says, is that even though the situation is sensitive it's a war zone, sensitive is an understatement, and even though there's big uncertainty in the area, that's also an understatement, I must call my generation and basically try to leverage that inner calling into a public calling and say to the youngsters across Israel, it's time to say Hinenu. That word Hinenu God speaks to Avram. Avram says, Hineni, here I am, ready to do whatever you want. God speaks to Moshe. Moshe says, Hineni, I'm ready. I'm here. Whatever you want, I'm ready. It's time to say Hineni. Or Hinenu in the plural. We are ready. And so Roee Azizi, age 28, started an organization called Hinenu. We are ready. We are ready to face this challenge. We are ready to encourage young adults from across Israel, religious, secular, right, left, to just come and be part of the local communities of the rest of the Negev. So he says, I figured that I'm asking people to join me to move permanently down to the Otef, young people, all different types. I figured this was in January of 2024, just a year ago. Started sharing it on Facebook, sending messages to people. I figured that by Rosh Hashanah, this past Rosh Hashanah, maybe we'd have 30 people who answered the call. When Rosh Hashanah itself arrived, they had 70. As of today, they have 120. 120 young people, diverse, religious, secular, traditional, right, left, centrist, but all of them in a way have decided to dedicate their life, their future for this mission. And I must say, the reason that I see them and us as agents of hope is because the major problem that I witnessed is desperation. When the future generation sees no hope, no positive, optimistic future of the state, then people either decide to leave or to live and stay but not be involved. People who feel desperation and decide to be part of the Hinenu, we are here, they basically do it because they seek meaning and they seek society and they seek community. They want to be a part of something that is bigger than them. And this was all started just by one person, Roee Azizi. And this is just one effort out of thousands and thousands. Thousands and thousands of young Israelis decided to jump on October 7th and to see it as their life duty to save us as a society and as a people. In so many ways, we've discussed many of those ways. And not only Jews in Israel, Jews here and around the world, again, in so many different ways. So Roee Azizi says, I'm calling young adults from all across the Jewish people, all across the world, to be part of Hinenu. We are here. We hear the call. We accept the mission. We understand it cannot be like it was before. And we are determined, committed to being part of making it different. That is the lesson and the spirit that we should take from the fast day of the 10th of Tevet. My friends, I hope that tomorrow will be a meaningful day for you, and I hope that you will reflect on some of these ideas and think about how the special nature of this fast is to focus not on tomorrow, but on taking upon ourselves a mission, whatever that mission is, to make it better, to make us better, to make each other better, to make the world better, to make the Jewish people better, to make Israel better, whatever it is. But to take the day as a call to action for the future. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.